Good morning. Before we get started on your lesson today, please make sure that you have a notebook that you can use for all of your notes. A spiral notebook would be fantastic. If you want to use loose leaf paper, that's fine as well, but please have a spot where you will constantly be taking notes for these lessons. We're going to go ahead and start with Unit 1, Lesson 1, Moving in the Plane. In this lesson and in this unit, we will learn about how figures can move in a flat plane, or how they move across a surface, of a flat surface. To begin, let's take a look at these four figures and decide which one doesn't belong. Now, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm going to tell you that up front, but I'd like for you to decide for yourself which one doesn't belong and give a reason why. Please go ahead and write that down on your notebook paper. Pause the video for a minute, write it down, and then come right back and play it. All right. Perhaps you decided that you felt like item A didn't belong because item A is a straight line. It doesn't appear that it would belong because it's not an angle like these other ones. Or maybe you said item B doesn't belong because item B has what appears to be a right angle right here. Or maybe you said, you know what, I don't like item C for this set because it's an acute angle and so it's smaller than the others, it doesn't fit. Or perhaps item D was an obtuse angle. The idea is that these items, whichever one you choose to not fit, we have to have a rationale for why. Knowing how to do that and having that understanding is what is going to help carry us through this lesson. The next part of this lesson is what we call the triangle square dance. There's a link here that in a QR code if you wanted to pull that up on a phone, or to copy that link and put it into your computer, or you can find this on the link that I sent to you in your Google Classroom. This gives directions that you can play this with another person and you can discuss those moves with each other, or you can go ahead and work on this independently. The idea of what we're doing is we're going to be watching this figure move about this small square plane. We press play and we want to describe how the figure is moving. We see that it slid to the right. And next it appears that it did a little bit of a turn. It turned from that upward position to this other position. Probably, I think we could call that 90 degrees clockwise. The next move appears that it slides up. And then we see it slide to the left. And then we see it turn one more time, which appears to be 90 degrees counterclockwise. Now, if that goes too fast and it's too hard to follow, go ahead and reset it. Click Show Shadows, and what this will do is it's going to show two images. We have the original image, and you'll notice that that original image kind of gets blurred down, and then you have the new image, and that would give us an opportunity to be able to see from the pre-image to the image that this figure slid to the right, and then we can see that it rotated or turned 90 degrees clockwise. And then we see again that it went ahead and slides up and then slides to the left. And then we see the final piece to it, that it turns again that 90 degrees counterclockwise. Whoops. If we go here to Dance B, we can check out another one. I kind of like the shadows. If you don't, that's fine. How would you describe this one? Again, I would see that it slides to the right. Oh, we have another turning 90 degrees clockwise. Oh, but this time it slid back to the left and then up. And for the last one, we see that it turned again to 90 degrees. So a slight variation in this. I'd like for you to take a minute to go ahead and do Dance C. Go ahead and play it and come up with your own conclusion of the three of them. Pause the video and then come right back and see how it compares to what I have to say. All right, now that you're back, again, I like the shadows. I would describe this one as sliding to the right. Ooh, that's a little bit different of a turn than I see that it has turned. This point appears to be turning this way, which to me is 90 degrees counterclockwise. Saying counterclockwise because opposite of the clock. And then we see that the figure it slides back to the left. And then we see that it slides up. Looks like our last piece to that is that we have another turn of 90 degrees in this case. Appears that it's turning 90 degrees clockwise. Now that we have worked on a little bit of those pieces, what we can do is we can go back and we can talk about some of these other pieces that are here. You can trade your roles. Some of the things that I wanted to talk about to make sure that we understand is when we're talking about clockwise, we think about a clock, 12 o'clock, and I'm just going to use 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. When we follow that clockwise, we say that we're following the rotation of the clock. Please don't mistake this as turning to the right, because once you hit 6 o'clock and you come back, it's no longer to the right. So I would like for you to learn to use clockwise and then counterclockwise. If we think about the same clock above, if we take 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock, counterclockwise, of course, is going in the opposite direction. Please remember those terms as you describe how things turn on their plane. Please remember about describing the directions of going up or sliding to the left, sliding to the right. You can write your descriptions in your notebook as problem number 3. And then we're ready to go ahead and move on to the next piece of this. We could think of each of the dances as a new dance by running it in reverse and starting in the 6th frame and working backwards to the first one. So what we should be able to do with that is, again, just come back here to this one and go ahead and go in reverse. So we start with this one, we drop the shadow, and we can go ahead and come back from here. And our next one, we see that it rotated. Well, how did it turn? We see that it looks like it's turning that 90 degrees counterclockwise. And then we go backwards and we see it slid down, slid to the right, turned again 90 degrees, in this case from here to here, 90 degrees clockwise, and then finally sliding back to the left. And those directions should be exactly opposite of what we just did. When we go back to our page and we think about the second one, how do the directions for running your dance in forward direction and reverse direction compare? Well, we see that they're both working in the opposites. We start from one point and roll to the other, and then every move that we make is different in that it is the opposite of the way we went the first time. When we talk about, this is coming to the end of this summary or this lesson, we have a lesson summary, and the main thing that we want to pull out is that there's 2 ways for changing the position of a figure in a plane without changing its shape or size. This is critical when we're talking about this in this lesson for what we call rigid motion. These figures, they slide or they shift the figure without turning it. There's a special name that we're going to learn in lesson 2 for this, but we see that the figure actually slides in one direction without seeing any piece of it turning in any direction. When we want to go ahead and describe those pieces, turning or rotating, we see that the figure is rotating around a certain point. Since we have no other points here, let's go ahead and call this one point Q. And this would be the center of the rotation. We see that figure A, if we just look at this point, rotates or turns a certain number of degrees. We can call that D degrees because we don't know exactly what it is. And what we would see in the rotation from all of those points is that it's the exact same number of degrees. All right. Go ahead and pause the video and take a moment to reflect on what we've talked about. Add in any other notes to your spiral notebook, and then come right back and I'll talk about the homework for this section. The homework for this section will be similar to this cool down exercise. This is our exit ticket. And within this X ticket, we want to describe how these shapes move from frame 1 to frame 2 to frame 3 to frame 4. So from frame 1 to frame 2, what we're looking for is we have to decide, did it just simply slide from one place to another, or was there any kind of a rotation or a turn? In this case, I see that we started up in the upper box, part of the box, and it appears that we've gone ahead and we just slid it down. So we can talk about this one as slide down. Our next one, from frame 2 to frame 3, it's pretty obvious that there's a change that has happened. And I would say that in this case, looking at where this point is and its related point over here, that we could see that there has been a turn of 90 degrees. And thinking about this value, if we wanted to turn our paper so that it looks like this one, keep in mind, this piece is going this way. I'm turning my paper 90 degrees. Counterclockwise, we're turning it this way. So we would say 90 degrees counterclockwise. And then finally, from frame 3 to frame 4, it appears that the figure is all the same orientation. And so this figure just went up, or we could say slide up. As you go through the homework for this lesson, you have it virtually and digitally, so you can do it there, so you can turn it right in. You'll describe the dance that happens from figure 1 to figure 2, and then from 2 to 3, and from 3 to 4. So you'll want to see the shapes and decide, is it just being slid or is it being turned in some kind of way? You'll do this for problem number 1 and problem number 2. And then you'll have a little one to talk about for Diego, where you get to take the opportunity to draw what's going on. Please go ahead and fill me in on any questions you might have. Let me know what may not make sense to you, and catch me on Google Hangouts. You've got one more lesson that we'll be looking at today. So find the next video if you're comfortable moving on to that one, and let's get learning. Thanks for being here today.